Hi, everybody. It's Janet Eichhorst and Jill Renee Feeler here for episode 27. I had to look for sure. I just said what that was and I just forgot so promptly. It's funny how that happens sometimes. How are you, Jill?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Yeah. Feels like it's been a full day already and it's relatively early here, so it's good.
Yeah,
Plenty going on.
I can relate. It's just, it's interesting how in this reality a day can literally fill up. Um, I have friends and loved ones that are in the era of like retiring from either corporate jobs or, whatever types of careers they had. And they're
Mm.
like, what will I do? And I'm like, oh, text me in a year because we can consume time slash waste time, enjoy time in so many ways that even people that are super busy
Yeah.
can feel like, oh, and they feel the essence, they feel their version of utilizing themselves in space time. And even people that are quite idle, it's like, oh, there goes another day. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting thing to be concerned about. What will I do with myself? I'm like,
Mm.
oh, I think you'll fill it with you.
Mm. I think so too. I wanted to just touch back to this was actually 2 episodes ago when Jill shared about her sister's passing. And I don't think I fully expressed the gratitude that I want to now, Jill, for you
Mm.
sharing that very personal and intimate experience in a public way. I mean, I hope people, I mean, I'm not telling anybody what to do, but I'm inviting people to listen to that for an opportunity for a heart opening. And that's what I wanted to say about that.
Thank you. I admit that there was a point. I think it was the day that you released it to your newsletter because it went to your newsletter first this time. I was like, oh shit, like what did I do? Like is it too intimate? Is it too revealing? I mean, some of the other members of my family don't know those details. So there was just a part of me going, is this okay? Because it is interesting for any of us that share from our personal lives publicly when it's about more than you, right?
Mhm.
I was very conservative about sharing anything related to my children. Now they're 23 and 19, but like photos and pictures and, Georgia walking in on camera when I was doing a certain event. Like, is she okay with that? Is that all right? Is her dad okay? My husband, is everyone okay with this? And I didn't get approval from anyone to share that. And then I kind of was like, oh, maybe I should call Janet and go, okay, let's send it to the newsletters, but let's not put it on YouTube publicly.
Mm.
And then the more I sat into it, I don't think David or Cameron will care. And my sense is, and of course, we can't validate this, that Chris would be happy to let people know to trust everything we talked about. Trust yourself, be creative, don't panic. The last thing you want to do when somebody's passing is so just do what you can to stay calm, even if that means a beer at 8:30 in the morning, right? For one of the family members that's there. So I felt Chris's blessing of sharing it, given how inspiring it really was. And for all of us to be another version of ourselves when we're trying to be that for another person.
Mhm.
So thank you.
And I do really honor Chris and still do. And like she's touched me on a level and I can feel that and I very much appreciate that. And it's still, I mean, I'll say this again because I think it bears worthiness to repeat it, is that to have somebody mm, to be present to somebody sharing those moments where we're just not quite sure and we're so determined to go for it anyway. I mean, that inspires me every single time, and, I hope other people have that experience with it too.
Me too. That's my biggest hope is that they take something away for them to feel more emboldened to be there in a fresh way on behalf of others when when there's so many other ways that things can go, I feel like the risk of doing it wrong decreases. And
Mhm.
our motivation for trying something maybe radically new for the hopes that it makes a very positive difference for someone, I think it's worth it. And I will always be on the side of that.
Mhm. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Is there anything Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just want to, and sometimes I feel the need to explain myself. The reason I shared about my own kind of reservations after we recorded it and after we started sharing it is because I have that too, you guys. I'm not like having like, oh, well, don't not even thinking about, was that okay to share that? That's so intimate. It's so special. I mean, um, did I cross a line, right? I have those moments too of what's okay to share, what's not okay to share, what's okay to do and what's not okay to do. I was replaying also after her passing, like, did I intervene too much? Did I deprive her husband and daughter from experiencing something else there? Did I take over? You know what I mean? So I have my own versions of those self-doubts and concerns. And I guess maybe the moral of my story is I don't let those get in the way, but I am aware of them. I am aware of the concerns and the ways that it could be misinterpreted or not welcomed and not well received. I'm aware of that, but I'm also looking at the bigger picture of, it's almost like, is it worth it? And could I explain why I did it if I ever needed to apologize or whatever? I'm not blind to that.
And I think this brings up something also important that's been important for me to recognize. When I do things that are new, they're new. And the potential for doubt, backlash, as I like to call it, second guessing can come up. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, it indicates a couple things for me. One, that I've stepped out of my comfort zone. And that's a very expansive moment for me, and I love that when I get to do that. And 2, I love always that I get to check to see whether I'm in my authenticity, and that's also a very valuable thing. And I know I've got friends, like, we used to joke about backlash. Like, when it would come up, and that's just self-doubt afterwards, like, "Oh my god, is that okay? Blah, blah, blah. I feel so raw. Oh, I feel something," some sort of discomfort for being that vulnerable or that doing new things or being seen in new ways. And so my friends and I used to joke about it because indicating it was a good thing, like, "Oh," like, perhaps I just burst through some glass ceiling that I'd been restricted by for God knows how long. And so we would joke about it, and especially when I was in, gosh, a really transformational when I first started my awakening process. I mean, everything was new. I mean, I remember the day I kind of owned to my partner that I was controlling, and then she reflected that back to me. Holy crap, I went nuts. I went nuts, and I didn't take it out on her, but wow, like those moments where I was like, "No, I'm gonna tell her that I've been controlling and I know it, and I don't wanna be that way anymore." And then I was willing to be present to whatever presented because it was that important,
Yeah.
and I don't wanna be held back by that any sort of version of fear in that way.
Yeah. I think that's so informative, Janet, what you just shared right there, because in our closest relationships, acknowledging our own kind of like concerns, am I being overly controlling, and almost like admitting that, acknowledging that to another person is a step towards intimacy. It's also a sense of trust, right? With yourself, number one, and with the other person. So I think that's really important. When you were reflecting on your in a younger era of you with friendships and kind of talking about backlash, it made me wonder that some people that maybe they stay in their comfort zone, they don't try new things because they already maybe have enough of a system of backlash and reservations and doubts and maybe self-flagellation of what were you thinking when you said blah blah blah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They may be their brain, I can imagine their brain kind of tricking them into staying in that comfort zone with the rationale of, well, we're already hard on ourselves and we're doing things we've done over and over again for 20 some years or more. So can you imagine what it would be like if we were trying something new? And I guess my counter to that rationale would be, if you're going to beat yourself up anyway, make it good. I mean, make it new, make it exciting. Use the loop in a real way, and then your response can be, well, yeah, we've never done it before, I'm sure we could have done it better. Versus, yeah, you're right, I still got mad at my mom when I talked to her and I'm in my 50s, you know what I mean?
That's just
Anyway, so I thought that could be a fun little twist for the brain to go, oh yeah, true.
yeah. That is good. That is good. And we talked about that too, about how we kind of trick our brain into living more fully. And it kind of needs that because I mean, I take ownership of that. Like my brain is part of me and it created some incredible mechanisms in order to navigate very challenging situations in my life, right? I just didn't know they'd be still be with me at 61 years old, some of them. And
Right.
they're not, like, a lot of them are not, but they're those ones, especially those really deep moments that were so challenging, and some of it's even pre-verbal. I mean, it's fascinating to me when I have, like, memory of pre-verbal because it almost it's kind of confusing versus how some of the other things get shown to me because it's pre-verbal.
Yeah.
And it's able to be present to, and I can sort of work through whatever some of those things are, whether they're beliefs or whatever they are. But it's really fascinating that they've stuck around this long and that level of unawareness. And I mean, let's face it, we get, entrained to our societal systems very early on.
Mm.
And I'm really grateful that I have people and I'm questioning all of those. And that's one of your major skill sets because you're like, you go on that edge all the time. You're like, really? I don't know if that's true.
Kind of like that edge for some reason, but I didn't always. But I like this version of my Jill that's really comfortable with that edge and confrontation to some degree, not to be antagonistic, but just to question and be curious. And it's always out of love. And sometimes I do want kind of an enriched dialogue about something that I don't know if they are actually committed to, right? When someone says a statement that I sense they're just kind of parroting it back, but they don't actually feel that way authentically. Oh, I'm pretty comfortable going, really? Like you're just okay with that.
Yeah.
Like you're not angry at all. you know.
That's one of your heightened mechanisms. I'm curious when that shifted for you.
I
When you
remember to the day.
do you? Oh, let's hear
Yeah.
that. You want to just
I definitely have a people pleaser side of me.
uh-huh.
And up until 17 years old, I was a bit of a doormat in a lot of ways to my friends, a boyfriend at the time, my siblings, my two sisters. Those are kind of the main ones. So I just, there was a moment where I'm just like, I'm not going to take the shit anymore. And I remember I was 17 years old. I can't remember what had happened, but it was just like something just like, okay, I'm done with that. I'm done with, you know, driving across town to pick up a friend somewhere that didn't have a ride. And then I get there and they had left an hour before. And granted, this was pre cell phones, it was 1987, but they had a way to call me to say, can you pick me up? They could have found another way at the payphones, right? Or however we did it at a friend's house to, okay, sorry, Jill, I don't need a ride anymore. And I get there and I'm just like, they left an hour ago. And it was at a party or something. And I wanted to be the hero. And I was like, F this. And there were people outside that we knew. And I think my boyfriend was outside. I said, I'm not putting up with this shit anymore. And I like yelled it. And I'm just like, and I was driving my dad's CJ7 Jeep, so it was a bit of a dramatic exit because with the V8 engine, I peeled off. And literally, I think he and I were broken up within a week. And my friendships changed dramatically. There was just a significant turning point at 17 that I was just done with that. And I just became this person almost like overnight of, I'm going to say what I think. I'm going to call people out on, in some cases, their shit. You know, a really popular girl at school that was constantly having another person basically answer like test questions for her.
Mm.
And I looked right at her and I was like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you do this yourself? And you could have heard a pin drop in that history class, American history class. They all just looked at me like, did you just confront her? I mean, like, we don't do that with her. She's a golden child. You can't say that to her. I don't even remember her name. I just remember she was kind of an untouchable, and it was just bullshit that she wasn't doing her own work. I was sick of it. Yeah. Anyway.
That's remarkable that happened at 17 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I can't there probably were significant moments at that time, but I can't remember them. I do remember one, though. It was just, like, a few days ago, and I was just present, and I thought, "Wow, there really is nothing in my way from doing anything I wanna do here."
Hmm.
I was like, "Wow," and it's not that I hadn't known that, but the to degree that I knew
Mm-hmm.
that moment was certainty at its best.
That's the word I was feeling before you said it, certainty. I
Certainty.
love that word because it's so unusual to have certainty here, right? Especially when it comes to ourselves and what we might be capable of, but we haven't proven to ourselves and we haven't shown the world yet. Having some amount of certainty within ourselves about what the possibilities really are and what we're capable of is so useful in this reality. And I wish everybody had a higher amount of it because I know for myself it's so necessary for all the times that I've said I've never done that before, but I'm going to try it anyway. I've never been that before, but I'm going to be that right now and see what happens. That does take certainty slash confidence, not in how it will go, but that I'm going to fucking try.
Mhm. And sometimes those kind of nudges are much more subtle than I want them to be,
Mm.
and that's why it takes a level of just paying attention to life and not I liked when you were talking about parroting because that happens so much, and I catch myself doing it sometimes. I'll be saying something, and I was like, "Wait a minute, where did that information come from? And
Yeah.
am I just repeating it? Do I really believe that that's even true?" Because there's a lot of untrue things being repeated right now.
Mm-hmm.
And people can do I wanna honor people's freedom as I say this 100%.
Mm-hmm.
You have the freedom, I have the freedom, Jill has the freedom to believe whatever we want around everything and anything. And we also have that discernment mechanism within us to determine what feels true. And a lot of times for me, I have this inner processing mechanism, I'll call it, where something will come up and I go, or huh. Like people that know me or have worked with me for especially a long time as clients, they'll be like, oh, there it is. Like something's cooking because I notice too that there's something going on that's not being recognized in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's time for it to be recognized or spoken or actually just to be with at some degree. And so there's like a little delay for me sometimes where I'll hear something and I was like, I don't know if that's true. but my inner processing mechanism keeps processing it, and then sometime in the future, what happens a lot of times is I'll be like, "Oh, that problem solving, it seems like a problem solving mechanism or a make sense mechanism or a discovering different levels of how something operates is always going on." And, our sensory abilities are way more powerful than
Mhm.
we know. And the more I kinda get some of my body functioning where the sensors in the physical realms are more on, the more I do this more naturally and organically, and seemingly quickly in a lot of cases. Although it is amazing to me, how long it seems to take for me to recognize certain things. Like, "Wow, 61 trips around the sun, okay." Better late than never, as we say, and I'm grateful to
Yeah.
know that now, and I'm grateful to be this now even better.
Hmm.
But it's pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I love what you're saying.
Yeah. Anything I feel like, wait, isn't there something we're supposed to be talking about?
I know. That's what I like it. Did we get to an entree here after this appetizer? But I love what we've said so far. I mean, is there anything that I want to add? I love what you've said.
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of on a theme here, if I were to try to capture it, of getting more comfortable being on your edge,
Mm,
um, being more authentic. Those are both very underneath the umbrella of what this podcast is all about, and really giving people new tools for that. I like how given another, we've given more insights to the brain and the brain's role
mm,
in branching out and the brain's role in having self-limiting beliefs and stories about ourselves and about others. I love to have an eraser kind of ready to go for those, because I don't like limitation. Limitation to me is the opposite of freedom.
mhm,
And I love freedom. And I love conscious choosing, right? Which is another kind of element that can be difficult because of assumptions, because of limiting beliefs, because of a whole bunch of things. So there's a lot of space to play in our own humanness and our in our own lives about further exploring what is a limitation that we're putting on ourselves and what is also a limitation that we're putting on others, um, in macro ways and in micro ways, whether it's you with a loved one or someone with a close friend or a spouse or romantic partner, or even on a more macro scale, somebody that voted differently than you do or lives in a different part of the world than you do. How are your expectations and assumptions about them limiting your experience in this world?
mhm,
And not everybody is well traveled. I'm somewhat well traveled, but I don't. To me, that doesn't make me a better person
mm,
in any way. But I've had different opportunities to test out my limiting expectations and my limiting beliefs of others, and that's been super fun to just feel nothing but an open heart and respect and honor that different does not mean less than, different
mhm,
does not mean bad, um, and we all have so many opportunities to connect with another human on other facets of commonality.
mhm. Yeah, as you speak, I'm just thinking about change in general
Yeah.
and how all the ideas around change
Hmm.
and projections, judgments, and how our emotional charges get in the way, and
Hmm.
how that, in the most ridiculous way, really, where we end up fighting more for what we don't believe in, something that has been parroted, something that I've been taught, something that, and I see this very much, I'm talking, as you were sharing, I was thinking about this in the political arena,
Me too.
because we all have our values, and I know what mine are, and love, honor, respect. I get all that stuff, right? And I also know that the systems, I believe that the systems that we've created here, all of us collectively, don't work very well and don't serve very well. And so we have these opposing views, and the heatedness gets so in the way of the solution, because I think both sides, if you wanna say it that way, agree that there's major problems. Wow, I'm feeling this now in relationships. As I say that, I think about that in relational dynamics, in our intimate relationships. Wow, I can just right in this moment, I can just feel, "Ooh, everybody, let's just take a breath right here." There's a moment here, an intimate moment with ourselves for shifting.
Peace is not about agreement. Peace is about respect. Respecting other people's choices, other people's options to come to a different conclusion than you about how to fix a problem.
Mm,
I started feeling the bullshit element within the metaphysical community about this whole kind of world peace kind of vibe when I think it was during the first Trump election in the U.S. And I was like, and I started to come across more and more in different communities that they were not talking to their family members. They weren't going to holiday gatherings because certain family members had voted one way or another. And I'm like, and then they'd be posting about global peace and world peace. I'm like, you're not talking to your dad because of who they voted for.
mm,
You're not inviting your child, your adult child and their family because of who they voted for. And you're posting about global peace. What are you doing? It's such bullshit. It's such BS. It's really the inauthenticity, the hypocrisy, is just, it's frustrating and also just sad. It's just sad that there's this disconnect. So it really, I think that whole experience years ago helped me want to get more smooth about what is peace and how could we get there, because clearly it's not voting the same. Clearly it's not that. It's not political alignment. So then what is it?
mhm,
It's space to see things differently.
mm. Wow, I'm so the question comes up for me, how do we deal with that inner conflict that wants me to argue, that wants me to cut people out of my life that I dearly love? What is that within me? What is that when that happens? And this happens on small levels and bigger levels.
Mhm.
So it might not be about, cutting family members out of my life, but it might be about not calling them because I don't wanna hear them, blah, blah, blah,
Mhm.
or and not saying that's not appropriate sometimes, but it happens on all these different degrees.
Yeah.
So what are the ways that I can be present to what's going on inside of me so I can really show up and
Yeah.
have that congruency in all areas of my life? Because that is crazy. I mean, I remember when I was with my family and they didn't wanna talk politics, and there were definitely opposing causes, and I kinda went on my little soapbox and said, "Well, if we can't do it here, where are we gonna do it?"
Mhm.
Everybody's like, kinda grumbling a little bit, and it's true.
It is true.
And I know I had to look inside of me and really calm for myself, whether you call that reparenting, whether you call that using the God consciousness and unconditional love that's always streaming, all around me and within me, whatever that is, whatever tool set I have in that moment to breathe and listen, sitting on my
Yeah.
hands, pinching myself, whatever it is, like we all have little tricks, right? Like, how can we do that better? personally and as a society?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I'm a fan of self-love and inner peace. So I know for some people it's like, look, Jill, I hear they might be thinking, look, Jill, I know what you're saying, but you don't understand. Thanksgiving or Mother's Day or Father's Day or Christmas or Hanukkah celebrations, Shabbat, whatever, at my house, all that side of the family does is talk about politics. And I refuse to do that. So that's why I don't go. I totally get that, and I'm not judging those types of decisions. I'm just wondering, but is there another way to get together? Is there somebody in the house, in that household, that you can have a conversation with? Look, is it possible to get together for that celebration, but have it be a politics free zone? Because I want to be there and I love you guys so much. And I know we see things differently, but I don't want that to get in the way of me spending time with you and enjoying you and creating new memories together when we still are all here, right? There's the other part that this isn't new. I mean, I remember being, gosh, it was probably 1974 maybe, and I was a little girl at my mom's parents' house, and my grandpa, her dad, was a very, very loyal Democrat. He was very pro-union. He was the main mechanic at the Hormel factory in Austin, Minnesota. I think he was in charge of all of the machinery and
Mm.
equipment in some way. As I had the tale of who Johnny Ferguson was, um, and there were other. I think his brother-in-law was very conservative and very Republican in a lot of ways, and I just remember you would start to hear it get quiet and then arguing in the other room. And I just remember I would always run to it because I wanted to peek around the corner and see like what did their faces look like? What was, and I probably didn't understand the language, but I was just looking at two adults that I love get really mad at each other about something that sounded like a foreign language. It was really fascinating to me, just the whole sociological side of, you know, that's a new mask, you know? So this isn't new, I guess, is what I'm trying to point out. But it seems like it's more divisive since, what was it, 10 years ago than ever before.
Mhm.
And I'm sad about that. I'm sad about, and I think you'd ask the rhetorical question, like, what do we do? And almost like, why? I heard the question as, how did it get like this? And I feel like there's just this loyalty to teams, like some group that I feel loyal to or some voting demographic that I feel loyal to would never forgive me if I pulled up to, this house and they had that flag up. They could never, they'd kick me out. They just, I would be disloyal to my team, my tribe, if I did that. And I'm just like, well, who are we pleasing then? Right. And maybe it does go back to me at 17 going, I'm not going to take the shit anymore. This is my family. And if you do have love for your family that can transcend politics and voting and those sorts of things, I don't know.
Well, and what am I truly loyal to? I mean, to me, that goes to the top of the hierarchy.
Yeah.
There is no hierarchy really, but if there was one, it would be source God consciousness, right? And I believe that that's unconditionally love-based. That
Yeah.
I'm loyal to. I'm loyal to my expression of that in all the ways that I can be,
Hmm.
right? And then, there are special people in my life, and I know there are people that have decided to not associate with their family, and that's honored too. That's not necessarily a bad decision for some
It's their
people.
choice. I don't talk to my oldest sister and I don't communicate. We're estranged from each other. So yeah, I'm not, but it's not about politics.
Yeah. And there are so the question becomes like, so the ones that I do wanna have relationships with people, whoever they are, family members, neighbors, childhood friends, new people I just met, how do I navigate them in such a way that we can honor each other?
Hmm.
And I think when the conflict comes up, that level of honesty is so important. And it might not be as honest with other people oh gosh, I can't tell you the number of situations I've been in and supported people in. There are people, and we've talked about this, you and I, in different arenas where some people kind of, I'll say, haven't earned the right to know very personal details about me. And what I mean by that is they don't use it in a way where I'm honored. And they might be mean and say something very offhandedly about something that's personal to me, or share it in a public situation, or all different kinds of ways that I don't feel honored by that. Right. And so that's important for me to recognize. There's people that are sort of in that category that there still might be a reason that I want to have a relationship with them that's seemingly mutually beneficial. Like they want to continue it and I do. Right. And then there's the people like I have in my inner circle. And the criteria for those people is the criteria that I determine.
Mm-hmm.
And I base that on, can they keep confidences?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of one person right now who at one point was getting really upset because, people weren't respecting confidences. But when I got to know her better, I realized because of what she was telling me about other people, she wasn't respecting their confidence.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
And then I said in a kind of joking way one time when I'm getting a little smarter about this whole situation, I was like, well, I wonder what you're saying about me. She's like, oh, no, I always say good stuff. And then come to find out later, my mind couldn't wrap my head around about what she was saying, but I did hear from somebody else that she was saying things. And and I'm putting that out there to encourage people to kind of superpower their discernment mechanism.
That's big.
And let's not pretend, because the information people are always telling us who they are by
Yeah.
their actions. And if they're saying something about somebody else in a negative way, I'll say,
Mm-hmm.
you can damn well bet that's going to come around. And there's that belief sometimes, well, they won't be that about me. Hmm, hmm, really? People are consistent generally in that way.
I have more questions about this. So, and only share obviously what you're comfortable with, but did you decide to like never talk to her again? Do you limit your exposure to her? What did you decide to do? Because there's, yeah.
I had very real conversations about this with other people
Okay.
so I could get clear about it for myself.
Yeah.
One of the things I said is, why am I using different criteria for this woman and how she treats other people and other people?
Oh, and what was the answer? If you can
I had an investment.
neutralize it.
I had an investment in that relationship, an attachment that wasn't
Mm.
healthy. I was
Was it
like,
about pleasing her or getting her respect or
um,
what was it?
kinda.
Or or you maybe wanting her to respect you. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just
Like,
curious if
I
there's
wanted something from her that I was meant to feed from within myself.
yeah.
So it's kind of a form of approval, kind of a
Mhm.
form of I can't do it on my own,
Mhm.
kind of a form of insecurity, and somehow in my brain mechanism and in my being,
Mhm.
somebody decided in this whole internal thing that she
Mhm.
could provide that for me. And so I sacrificed
So weird. Yeah,
some of my moral and ethical criteria.
I'm so glad we're on this topic, Janet. And maybe we do want to Um, maybe this is the next one because I know we're already at like 39 minutes, but I was just saying to myself, this is so weird. And what I mean is, because I know for me, it's weird when I all of a sudden realize, why am I allowing a different, like, I think you used the word standard for this person that I would never allow anywhere else. Why am I doing that? And when you uncover that rock, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, right? Are you okay if we do that for the next episode? Because
Yes.
that's, I mean, and I don't know if I'll have advice about it per se, but just like no, I know what that feels like. And it's very revealing. And I get the same big smile on my face, the gorgeous smile that, well, mine isn't pretty like yours, but you have a gorgeous smile on your face right now. Like, oh, it feels so, because you free yourself from an
Yeah.
attachment that you didn't know you'd made to another person.
Yes. Yes. This is the unwinding. And really, it's the same thing as the systems in our world and
Mhm.
all of our relationship dynamics. And because the systems in our world are made up of people that create rules that have these same dynamics in it. And it's that same thing about loyalty. Why
Yeah.
am I loyal? Because there ends up being some sort of survival something in there, like I have to, or
Yeah.
yeah, let's get into that. And that would be a really rich,
Yeah.
revelatory, freedom inducing.
Mhm. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So, should I put a bow on this one?
Go ahead, Jill.
All right. Thanks, everybody, so much for joining. I hope you liked this episode. I feel like there was a lot here. It felt really relaxed. It probably didn't give anyone anxiety in their stomach, like maybe some of the other ones that we've done, which is great. Just chill. I'm sitting sideways. It's all good. Janet cheering awesomeness. I'm not interrupting. Good job. I feel like I had myself in a down low chill mode, which is good. I hope you liked it. I'm so glad that you're here, and thank you for subscribing, liking, commenting. If this was useful to you, thank you for being here. And Janet, you're awesome. So good to see you.
Oh, you are too. And thank you, everybody. Big hug, big loves. And yeah, thank you so much.